Good evening. It's been a few days, ain't it? Okay, so the reason it's been a few days is because I have been working on something that, well, to be fair, has just been kind of what I've been working on before. And plus, it's code, right? It's back end code. And and a lot of logic, a lot of thinking, a lot of trying to figure out the best approach to how to do this because it's formulaic stuff. Still working on skills, working on stats, on reading stats. I'm making a lot of progress, but some of them have actually taken me a day or so to complete. So it's proving to not be a fast process that I hoped it would be. I thought I'd get all these skills done in a few days, and now it's been a couple of weeks. But then I also got distracted by ClickUp, my ClickUp link tool, which I wanted to get working. So that took me a little bit of time off. And so I kind of went to that. Now you might ask, wait a minute, you're back on the AM Games Dev stream. And yeah, well, yeah, I am torn right now. Okay, so I'm trying to decide how I best want to get my streams to be um, viewed. I don't know, seen. I got to start doing actually editing. Actually edited, actually edited. I have, I have to start getting to the point where I edit some videos and put them up as just kind of concise that day's work. So I'm trying to keep my sessions shorter so they're not like hours and hours long. And I'm also trying to maybe even start editing some of them down to like 20 minutes. So like if I can do an hour, hour and a half and turn it into a 20 minutes, that's a lot easier than taking a 4 hour and turning it into 20 minutes. It all depends on what I'm getting done and what I'm trying to accomplish for any given day. So that said, um, what I'm working on now is an attempt to get my weird. I'm trying to get ratings assigned to each player, and what that means is I have every player's got a set of skills, a very particular set of skills for their position, and ultimately they all end up need to be given ratings so that when you're looking at your players in a list, you're gonna, or all the players in a list, like you're gonna draft them, you can kind of see what they're rated, right? Or what their ratings are currently. Now there's a current rating, and then there's kind of like the potential rating, um, which I have to implement. I have a design plan for implementing um, potential, but that's it's a little down the road here. So first things first. There won't be potential involved yet, but I'll be getting there soon enough. So I'm basically working on the algorithms that would devise or that would derive the results of interactions of players on the field. So I've been doing a lot of researching, a lot of reading on the different how skills work in the NFL, what stats are available, what functionalities and features I can try to implement based on that. But ultimately, it comes down to I just need to get these skills built so that I can run an actual game. Um, I'm not doing. I spent a little time in the last few days also working on um, video images. So it occurred to me that I still had the Washington Redskins as one of my teams, which, by the way, don't exist. It's the Washington Commanders, which means I have to change their mascot. Now, I'm going to use all the currents. Now, what happens if a team changes their name in the future? Well, then we'll have some other kind of mascot, and one of them will just disappear. Those that are still out there will exist, but they only exist as they were. Now, you might say, well, do I want to create the Washington Redskins and the Washington Commanders? That might be interesting, huh? So you just have these Redskins out there, and then the Commanders, when they came into existence, I'd have to figure out whose team actually exists. So that would mean I'd have to have a 33rd character. I already don't like the idea of having to do 32. I set myself up for that, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to happen, but well, so I gotta add animations and yeah. So we'll see how that happens. But for now, who is it? Prime is Prime something. He's on YouTube and he's a software developer. Now I don't think he does games, but guy can type fast, man. I'm watching him type. You can hear his keyboard's going, and he types super fast. And he's pretty fast. I mean, like pretty accurate too. I've always thought I was decent. I think I still type about the same speed I did 30 years ago when I was just a tot. I think I used to type 60, 62 words a minute, so I'm still probably in that zone. I feel like there's times when I type really fast, but other times I'm like, maybe not so much. Anyhow, so let's see what I can get going here. So this is the code I'm currently working on. I've actually built a scaling function. So sometimes what I've been doing with AI lately is less and less am I giving it big projects. Like sometimes I just don't, I'll like tell it what I want. Like I need a new function that does blah, blah, blah. And honestly, I'm not sure. I didn't actually ask it to do, it did a good job with the function I asked. I just didn't ask, I wasn't sure if I wanted it done that way. So there's a couple things I might need to do. So I created the scaling function. Okay, so this scale to value function, which takes a value that I derive for all of my various skills, which by the way, I have to do 100%. That's totally un-AIable. AI has no input into those, short of helping me come up with some of the functions that I'm using. But so what it does is it takes a value and then takes a min and a max, and then it'll like say, okay, well, say the minimum value that I come up with is 0.012, maximum value 0.9325, something like that. Sometimes I do have fractional decimals like that, but those numbers don't really help me any. I need them to be something I can work with as a comparative. That numbers, how good is that compared to somebody whose rating is on another skill? It might be 7.9 to 23.2. Those don't really compare. They don't work together. So you got to scale them in a way that brings them together, brings them in line with each other. So you might have to scale them both within a range of, maybe I want one to be like a 1 in 8 chance of something and another one to be a 1 in 20 chance, So you have to scale it so that it fits. A guy who's got, this value might be an 18 and another guy's a 15, and it's like you're just rolling against a 20 or something like that. Whatever that particular setup is, you need that to scale. So you have another set of parameters. You got the min and the max of the actual values. What that does is make sure that like the best of player is always the top. He's going to be the one guy that gets a full value on that rating, on that piece of the rating. A lot of my stuff is made up of multiple parts. So even if you do get a perfect scaled value, that perfect scaled value, for example, I had to do pass blocking. Pass blocking has 4 values. It's got like 3 what makes up penalty values, and then 1 that's kind of a positive value. And I gave the positive value like a 3 max value, and the others are just 2s, so they're smaller. And then you add them all up, and whatever that value is a max. Well, nobody nobody gets a max on all 4 categories. So nobody's going to have a 2, 4, is it 2, 4, 6, 9? Nobody's going to get a 9 out of that. They're going to get some value that's the other, all of the value parts added together. Nobody's going to have a 1 either because, again, nobody's going to have the minimum on all 4. But you might get max on one of them and min on the others. And either way, all that stuff has to get added together and it becomes the parent value. And then that parent value, which now might be something like 4.2 or 7.6 or whatever it is, will then have to get scaled into a range, which is what the rating is. So for the pass blocking, you take those 4 values, add them together, whatever the value is, which I think it ranges 1 point something to 7 point something. And so that needs to be scaled into a rating. How good is the pass blocking? Well, because a number like 1 point whatever. I mean, nobody wants to look at that and go, what? Well, 1.8 versus 7 point something. Well, on a scale of 1 to 9, but you don't want that. That's not something anybody wants to look at. It gets too confusing. If you want to put all these side by side and consider them individually, you would take those values and now I scale them to the rating value, which is going to be, right now I think I'm going with 0.4, I'm sorry, 40 to 99. 40 being the minimum. Yes, I'm not having nobody's going to have less than 40. These are all professional football players. They all have some skill. They can all pass block if they have to. And that's just it. Every player gets every skill. If every player gets every skill, if, however, they don't actually have any stats to support it, they're going to be at the bottom of that skill. And any player that has some kind of skill will get a little bit higher. So that's just kind of how I have it set up. So what's going to end up happening is, like for the pass blocking, that 1.7 to 7.6, they're going to get scaled on a value of 40 to 99, which means if somebody was to get a perfect, a minimum score, which would be a 5. No, is that right? No, the minimum score could be as little as, I don't know, point something, I guess. It's 1 point something is what it comes out to, because the numbers can be at less than 1, but they can go higher. Because if everybody's got less than 1, everybody can be less than 1, right? So you got 0 to 1, 0 to 1, 0 to 1 is 0, oh, sorry, 0 to 0 to 0 to, and then 0 to 3. So any number that fits in that range could be in the minimum. So you could actually add all that up. I think the lowest is like 1.8. So 1.8, well, if you were 0, it'd be 40, but anybody who's like a 1.8 might be like a 50 something. But a person who's at 7 point something might be like a 75 or an 80 or 90 or whatever pass blocking. And then I'm going to give each position a salary value range as well. They're going to have a salary range, which means if they're in this zone, the max salary is X and min salary is Y, just because that position gets that salary range. And then when you're drafting players, your player is going to fall in there somewhere as a salary range, but that's the initial salary that you get. Now, how many years on that contract? I think most players, it's going to be random. It's going to range from anywhere from 1 to 3 years, something like that. And I might actually allow for longer contracts at some point. But that's how I'm going to have it start out. So this way you're not totally hit right away, but you might need, you're going to have to start dealing with contracts within a year. So it's kind of like the first year you're good. All your players are on your team and they all have this contract that ends up being this for all your years, and it's all going to be fixed across the board. And then I got to build in the salary structures and stuff. So, but that's going to happen later. So I'll build in base salary because that's how I use to build the teams. And I'll build in a base rating so you can look at your teams and see what they are. And then ultimately I have to figure out a way to implement, potential, which potential, you're not going to always know what it is fully. You're going to have an idea of the potential. It can say something like, your potential is something between here and here, because then, and the better your scouting is, the smaller that potential range focus might be. But again, even then, you can miss it. If a player never plays, he may never reach his potential. He may never get close to his back's potential. But also, players could just go nuts and be like, whoa, we way underestimated him. So better, but you have a more likely landing spot for a particular person in the event of, good scouting. So it just gives you more of what the game's going to be using as their range, and thus where that player could potentially end up. And so certain different players will have, like, you want to be able to have, I want the game to be able to have players like a Terrell Davis, drafted in the 6th round. Nobody expected much of him, but somehow he went nuts and became, a Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame player, even though he only played, 5 years, 6 years, I don't know. But you want to have even a slight chance of that kind of player happening, right? And the only way for that to happen is for a guy to show his stuff and just have a phenomenal season. But there's got to be a window of possibility in there. A game that says, okay, well, this guy's drafted in the 6th round, he's never going to be anything much. He can play for you, yes, but the odds of him becoming great is, I think most games, you'll never have a 6th rounder that becomes great. That's just not how they work. They're cheap, their stats are bad, they never go very high in their potential. Like Retro Bowl, very simple game that really kind of has a little bit, you draft players, you trade for players, but it shows you what their potential is very bad if they're a 3rd round pick and they're just like, okay, and that guy can't get better than that. He hits that point, short of being cranky. I don't know why, for some reason when a player gets cranky, they get a little bit more stats. I don't know why that game does that. But ultimately, you're never going to be great. There's never going to be a player that exceeds his potential. Potential just means in that game their max possible value. And I don't think that's great. I think that's I don't think any player you should be able to have a full-on max. You may not view the potential thoroughly, but there may be things that can change it. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a lot of stuff in there that makes it so some guy sometime could potentially have a Terrell Davis-like career. Never know. Make it happen. I want my game to be able to provide for that. So you can have guys in your league that is like, dude, how did this guy become so great? Well, just, nobody expected him to be that great. Now, it's interesting because my game's going to be totally based on NFL players and stats, but I can't use their names, so the names are going to be I haven't figured out the best way. The teams are all anagrams of actual NFL teams, and teams and mascots, but players, I can't do that. I'm not going to try to make anagrams out of 1,400 player names. Forget that. That's one season. I'd have to do that every year. That would be just nonsense. I'd have to somehow figure out a way to put every player's name. By the way, in case you didn't know this, AI does not know how to do anagrams. Try it sometime. Give it 20 some letters, a long name, and tell it to give you some anagrams of that name. I actually asked AI to do that for me like 4 different times. Same name. I said, give me some anagrams. I said, so it came up with some good ones. And then you realize you're missing letters, and you're using some letters more than once. In fact, you even put some letters in that weren't in the original set. And it goes, oh, yeah, you're right. Let me try that again. Nope. Again, nope. It just kept failing. So, yeah, I don't know. AI does not know. It knows what an anagram is, but it does not know how to actually write an anagram. So it knows how to find words, I guess, create words out of an anagram, a true anagram. I believe, uses all the letters. I mean, that's why it's called an anagram, right? It's just the scrambling of all the letters. So, yeah, AI does not know how to do that. It's very bad at it. At least I haven't tried it with Gemini, or not. What do you call it? No, it's ChatGPT 5. I am curious. Should we try it? Let's see if ChatGPT 5 was the latest and greatest and most fantastical. Let's see, chatgpt5.com. All right, so let's go. Let's just give it one. Kansas City. Actually, let's go. Washington. Washington Commanders. Can you give me some anagrams using all the letters in Washington Commanders that would make up a new team and mascot name. Let's see how good it is. Okay, so it gave me 5. Shadowmancing Demonster, Dragonstorm Iceland Moan, Dragonstorm Iceland Moan, Sandstorming Cowheadman, Shaman Crowding Toadman. Shadowmancing Demonster. Let's see if it got them all. It's kind of hard to guess. Let's see if it at least got the right number of letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. How many do I have? 4, 8, 12, 16, 4, 8, 12. Okay, if I'm, all right, so I either counted wrong, or I got 20. 4, 8, 12, 16, 22. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. Okay. 4, 8, 12, 16. These are both 22. 4, 8, 12, 16, 22. All right, do I not know how? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20. My word has 20 letters, and several of yours have 22. Should be the same number of letters. Only the mascot name needs to be a real word. The rest can be a made-up city name as long Let's see if it can do this. It didn't do it though. Okay. It says, I'll generate, and then I am open to anything that works. The wit and command is dragons. The, the wa the Wanan commands tigers. The Won commanders giants. The Wag. Why does it think this word is pronounceable? The Wahigton commanders. The Wagton commanders. The Wagon commands. The Ahing Tomandes crows. So it did come up with some words. Dragons, tigers, giants, demons, rhinos, hornets, crows. I mean, that all works. I don't know if these are even valid because it does say they're all 20 letters. I'm hoping it can count. 4, 8, 12, 16. Okay, so it did do 20. 4, 8, 12. Actually, that one's only 19. 4, 8, 12. That's only 19. 4, 8, 12, 16. That one's 20. Okay, so most of these seem to be the right length. I don't know if they're correct. It's not good at it. Let's just put it that way. Plus, it doesn't quite get the concept of pronouncing, because the Wahigton commanders, it just went with that, and the Hankton no Mandes. It's one word. It insists upon making this into one word, which a city can be like West Diamondscape or something. I mean, West Kahunas rhinos or whatever. I mean, it can do stuff like that, but it doesn't know how. It's the wit domains instead of wit commands while still being valid anagrams. The wit and mains. Yeah, I don't know. So, nice try. Well, look, I hit my limit. How did I hit my limit? It's like the first thing I did. Look at that. It's like all I did. Did I do other stuff today? I don't even remember doing other stuff today. But, hey, whatever. Anyway, so there you go. AI, not a great anagram. Not a great anagram tool, I'll tell you that. Okay. Let's get back to it. Ultimately, it's going to be looking up, trying to come up with the ratings. Now, I come up with a function that's doing exactly that. I built some additional functions to support my rating system. What it does is, instead of me putting in a min and a max, because that means I'd have to know all the mins and max and the blah, 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 I let it dynamically create its own min and max. So what's going to happen is, as each of these stats plays out and calls for a min and a max, calls the scale value that uses a min and max, it's going to go look in this table that's storing the scale values. And then when it finds one, if its value is less than the min, it becomes the new min. If it's greater than the max, it becomes the new max. If there isn't one, it becomes both. So every value that comes in will push the values in various directions. And then that scale spreads apart by the time it goes through all the players. At the end, if any of those values were changed, during the scaling, it'll rerun them all and reset their scales, which means all of them will be accurate at that point because they'll all be using the same scale range. Because at first they'll all be using different scale ranges, right? They're going to use the ones that are unchanged, as long as they fall in the middle. But this will allow the game to be self-balancing. Every player is going to get scaled and rated based on all the other players in the league. So when I add new players, say for example I add another season's worth of players, I want those players to be balanced within the scale of all the other players in the league. So it goes and runs and goes, hey, we have all these players that we need to set up, and now we need to go back and run again all the ratings to make sure that everybody gets rated according to the same scale values. So it's a little bit of a process of going through. Now what I may have to do is actually end up running for all players all the time. So what I'm actually working on doing is, whenever I bring in a new team, instead of going straight from the imported stats, I'm going to take those imported stats and make them part of this player stats data. So I got player stats imports. No, that's not the one. Well, okay, so I got player stats imports and player stats. Oh, imports are the individual calls. So okay, so stats are the values that come in, and player stats data is the data that comes in, and player stats is the players that my local version of the players. That's why they're about 1,000. So if I go here, this is me creating a flat structure of all of the stats a player has. So as they come in, they get imported into this, which ultimately I think is an improvement slightly. I've got to probably figure out a better way to break it down in some way so that I can have groupings and make this more readable. But ultimately, it's just going to pull that, and then all the stats, instead of being built off of these stats, which is the player stats data, which is what I'm doing right now, all my stats are built off of this. You can see that some of them they all have different amounts of different stats. If they're defensive, they'll have defensive stats, and if they're offensive, they'll have offensive stats. And I'm building them up all this way. Sometimes you have like rushing stats that might come from one of these two tables, because you can see they have slightly different stuff. Okay, so this one's got yards and attempts and averages and all that stuff, and then this one's got some other rushing related stuff. Fumbles, attempts. I don't even know what Yiscum is. Yards. Yeah, I had different sources. I will definitely have to come up with better naming conventions for each one, but it doesn't matter to you, and it won't matter to me because they're all getting converted. So if any of these are actually used in my skill sets, those go into the player pool. And the player pool is all the players that are actually available to being put into the game. These are all the skills that I currently have for these players. As I create more and more and more skills, these values will get increased. Every player will end up with a bunch of stuff, but they'll all have different skills. And we will have ratings. So the ball security rating, which is 8.16 here, will end up being a rating of 40 to 99 as well. Not changing this, but it'll be a ball security rating. Obviously, ratings are the higher the rating, the better. So you might say, well, you want a 90-something ball security. It means the guy's going to should rarely fumble. His odds of fumbling are pretty light. And then you have things like speed and fatigue, and you got guys that are all going to be having these values. But a speed of 4 point whatever is not that great. But if that actually turns out to, on a scaling process, state that he's actually like a 90, then that is really good. So you want everybody to be balanced apples to apples, and that's what the rating system is doing. It's going to take all these values, turn them into a rating system that you can then use when you're evaluating how you want you want to set up your players. And then those numbers are individually converted to a secondary value, which is called the game performance level, whatever. It's also scaled, but that number becomes a value that the player needs in order to succeed or fail or succeed at whatever they're trying to do in comparison to whatever they're going up against. Generally another player, or against the ball, like you're going for a catch. A player's opportunity to catch the ball is going to be based on that plus the pass defender who's nearby or whatever they're going to have. So the pass defender may have some effect on whether or not that pass is caught. If he's wide open, what's his chances of catching it or dropping it? All those things are going to come in their hand skill. And then, of course, how difficult is the catch is going to come down to how good the quarterback is and his accuracy. So he'll have his own stats that says, okay, well, this is what he can do. This is what he can do. He's throwing the ball this far. He's got blah, 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 blah. Did he get the ball close enough? If he did, then, you know, there'll be these various, all these little numbers and pieces will come together like a puzzle. Every piece comes together, and then it's like, okay, this is what he's got to accomplish in order to make this catch. And then I'll have it doing some logging that tells me this is, you know, the quarterback is like never getting the ball to their targets, and these are really hard catches. Or, you know, if players are just dropping balls all the time, I'm like, okay, what's the problem? Well, it could be that the quarterback is never getting it there, and they're all difficult catches, which means I got to tweak the quarterback balance, their accuracy ratings. And since it's going to be on all of them, all the players will get a little bit better. And that should raise the amount of times a player can catch the ball based on those difficulties. And then same goes for like maybe they're catching it every single time, no matter what. No matter how much defense is on them. Maybe I have to raise the defense or lower the hands, but all of those values will be allowed to be tweaked because I can just change the scales. Because ultimately I won't be changing the values. The values are the values. But how those scales work in comparison to what they're being compared against is the ultimate goal. And the ratings are going to pretty much stay the same. Because that, again, doesn't really, what they're scaled against is just for purposes of performance. They're all scaled. They're all scaled, though. So for the purposes of rating, it might be 40 to 99. For the purpose of play, it might be like 1 to 20. You know, but that's just, and how good he is going to be based on where he falls into that 1 to 20. And what adjustments I have to make will be probably to the game values, not the ratings values. The only time ratings values will get really tweaked is for one, players might improve in the next year. That could change them. Two, if another player comes into the league that has better stats, that'll change the scaling of the rating, and therefore maybe a guy who was 90 one time might drop to an 89 or an 88 because the new guy rescaled everybody. It's kind of like grading on a curve, right? So you got the one guy who's really good, and that changes everybody's curve. Everybody gets pushed into the rating in a different way. It's like, oh no, you got one guy went nuts, and that screwed up everybody else's score. If everybody's close, then it spreads out. So the guy who's best, if he's only a little better than everybody else gets decent scores. If one guy is fantastic and everybody else is bad, you know, not as fantastic, so it's fine. That's the way it's going to be. If a guy's great, it's kind of like having a Barry Sanders versus every other running back most years. Okay, there's usually one or two guys that are pretty good, but they're not all at that level, right? So there'd be plenty of years where a lot of running backs don't even get a play whose rating is really low. Now, Madden gives 99s to players every year, right? But that's because they only have one season, and each new season of Madden is a new season of players. And even if you're playing career mode, you're just going forward with those guys. You're not pulling in previous seasons. At least I don't think so. I don't know how that works. I don't know Madden well enough, but I don't think they combine a bunch of seasons of players. So they just make up players after that, and they fall within a range. Well, my goal in this game is not to have made up players. I'm going to try. Now, mind you, because they're not made up does not mean some of the stats aren't going to be a little guessed. Okay, so like for one thing, I don't have any stats for rookies. I bring rookies in. There are no numbers for them. But I will consider where they were drafted as kind of a potential meter. And their potential might be better at the higher positions of draft. That's the goal. So, and I might give them like a little more consideration in how they can perform in the season, because they're going to have like maximum unknown to them, and that maximum unknown is how a player can be a bust or a boom. Don't know. As they get more solid, that unknown factor becomes kind of less and less. You hope that they're more stable, but they could still have big seasons. I mean, it happens, right? I mean, guys get hurt, have a mediocre season, and then next season they go nuts. I mean, there's always something, or some player comes out of the woodwork and has a mediocre career and goes to another team that has a lot of great things going for it, defend, and that player just goes crazy. Maybe I've got a player in there that's affected by pass rush and he starts to lose it a lot, and now all of a sudden he's on a good team. His stats could go up because now he's on a team that's blocking for him. He's not getting hit as often, and he's got a lot of potential, or he's able to hit his potential better. So that's kind of the goal for how I'm putting together a lot of this. But anyway, so these will become more and more complete as more and more players end up with stats on here. I haven't got it set up yet where every player is getting something, but this is kind of how players should look. They should all start to kind of have the same data. You'll see that mostly these guys do have all the same data, and it has a lot to. Some of them have numbers, some of them have zeros, but it's because I don't have minimums on them yet. What I'll probably end up doing is on the ratings, if they don't have a value, then they get the minimum. So a 0 ends up being a 40 or whatever I'm setting the base at. And maybe I'll play with that a little just to kind of decide how I want, to tweak out kind of players. So anyway. All right. So again, I did mention that I'm doing both I'm on this channel, the AM Games Dev, Active Mind Games Dev. And the reason for that is really because I'm trying to decide if I should put my general just chit-chatty coding kind of less stuff here, or if I want to go on the other one where I can get more people watching, but it's still just code, or put more videos there. Or I thought even just doing this on my other channel. Okay, so if you're on Twitch, this doesn't matter because I only have one channel there. One channel that's doing anything I do. Almost anything, except my fitness stuff. That's on Striving to be Superman, but I haven't done that in a while. So I haven't actually put a video in there for a long time. I think I did do it this year. I was doing it at the beginning of the year. Actually, have I? Did I? Jeez, has it been? When was the last time I did a Striving to be Superman video? That might have been October when I finished the Cali move. It's been almost a year. Doesn't mean it's dead. It just means it's quiet. So there's probably no videos over there because they go away. Twitch drops your videos after a while. But if you want to see old stuff, go to YouTube. And that's just it. I want to try to curate it a little bit. Start turning some stuff into videos, and we'll go from there. Okay. So anyway, let's see what I can get done here. Let's turn on a little bit of jams, right? By the way, I did see let's see what they did here. The Broncos gamble doesn't pay off as defensive veteran and key depth gets scooped up less than 25% roster. Defensive back Demarius Mathis is cleaned up by the Panthers additionally. Guard Javier Truss was scooped up by head coach Sean Payton's former team. The team was hopeful Truss and Mathis could come back on the practice squad but found a new home instead. Well, whatever. Oh, wow. We are officially entering the next chapter of post-Genshin Impact world we find ourselves in. After a huge boom in space, gacha action RPGs are, at long last, ditching the gacha part so they can just be better games that aren't nailed to unavoidable predatory and anti-fun monetization. Do It Night Abyss is waving the flag, promising all characters and weapons will be free to unlock with none of the usual RNG or time-gating nonsense. That's according to the latest updates from developer, blah, 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 blah. Every character is free, says blah, 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 blah. Operations Dekobar quickly added weapons are free too. We're completely removing all character and weapon banners, he clarifies. From now on, every character and weapon can be earned completely through free gameplay all the way until you collected them all. The star rating system for characters and weapons has been removed too, and instead of banners, you can now just buy characters directly through the in-game shop or earn fragments that eventually unlock them by completing character-specific activities. That's cool. See, that's the way to do it, man. So you can, with that game it works. Okay, so my game's not going to have. I haven't decided on my pay process. Actually, I'm leaning. I'm closing in on my solution for what I want to do for my game. What do you call it? Monetization. Like I said, I thoroughly do not want to have we'll see how that works. I thoroughly do not want to have paywalls, pay to play, pay to win, any of that nonsense. So there are factors that I want to build in that I'm going to my current pay solution is ultimately I'm thinking I want to have the mobile part basically be a feature of the PC part, which means if you buy the PC version, you get the mobile app in full. If you get the mobile app, you get it as a demo that you can play for a little bit. But ultimately, to keep playing, you would have to buy the full version. Now, if you don't have a PC, you could buy the whole full version, but it'd be on your phone. You'd own the PC version, but if you don't have a PC, you won't install it. But basically, the idea is that everybody's going to pay the same amount across the board. What does that mean towards your collections? Do people still want the collections? I mean, how many games have collection aspects to them but don't have microtransactions? I want to see if there's any games like that. Are there any sports, or for that matter, any card or character collection game that does not have microtransactions? ZenGM Retro Bowl. Well, okay, so Retro Bowl is not a collection game. You get players, but to be fair, it is not it is not a collection game. You don't get to keep these players. You're trading them constantly. Slay the Spires, a deck builder, Monster Train, Star Realms. See, that one is microtransactions. The collections are fixed price. There's no randomization. Earn cards through play. No pack buying. Crafting system is generous. Okay, so that's interesting. So that one kind of does it. Legends of Runeterra, competitive card game, cosmetics only, full deck. See, again, there is that. That's collection. So if your collection is cosmetic and you're still paying for it, I know it's people. What I'm probably going to do is have like, um, I don't know. I might just do something like a version updates. I don't know. I have to figure out how I got to do this. See, that's the thing. You know, I want to be able to have the ability to make more money off of it, right? If it's successful. But I don't want to do a Madden thing where I'm releasing it every year and then you lose what you had. It's almost like if I released a 2026 and a 2027, 2027 would essentially be an update to 2026. Like that would be my goal. It would be like you install it and you can start new, or you can just upgrade your previous version. That's kind of what I would rather have it do. Because I don't want to have, I want to have the same player, the same source data, so you can always add. So you might get new teams, or new seasons of players, and whatever new features the new game comes up with. But I don't know. I don't know. Does Madden even bother updating their game after they release it? Because they're going to come out with the 2026. So how does that work? Do you keep patching one to fix and then go to the next, or do you just? I don't know how they do that. Vampire Survivors, tons of unlockable characters, no microtransactions. Darkest Dungeon. Yeah, see, I played Darkest Dungeon. It's decent. It's not really a collection game either. You do get some players. I mean, you might get 16 to 18 players, but they're all on your squad. I don't know. I don't know how big it gets. It might go bigger. I haven't gotten very far in the game, honestly. It might go to 20 or 25, but you're not really collecting players. What I mean by collecting, I mean like where the collection is something like you're adding them to a book, like you might collect cards, that kind of thing. Not they're on your team. Like Retro Bowl, they're just on your team. Right? So you're not doing it just to have them. You're doing it because you need them. Like for example, Darkest Dungeon, you're constantly getting wounded and beat up, and your guys are spending a lot of time getting healed and better. So the more guys you have, the more likely you'll have a fresh set of people. But also, they can be down for a long time, or they can get killed and you just lose them and they're gone for good. So you need guys. You're collecting them just to have a source. It's kind of like building your team and just getting more and more depth. You're just adding depth to your team because you need to keep cycling them through. So that's not really the same. So Darkest Dungeon is not. Epic Battle Fantasy. I have played Epic Battle Fantasy, I think. I don't know. Epic Battle Fantasy. I think I have 4. I don't know if I have 5. But I don't know. I don't remember collecting characters with that. I mean, you had with the Epic Battle Fantasy. I remember you only had 4 characters. You get them, and maybe there was a way to change characters. At least I don't remember. Fire Emblem, very good game. That one's a character collection, but you get them. You're not collecting them just to collect them, just to have them, or playing them to build up their ability or build up their collection state. You're building them to use them, right? So you get them because the story gives them to you. It's like, hey, you need this person, and then you have to go play with that person. It's not like It's not like you can just have them. So it's not really collectible in that sense. These aren't truly collectible games. And by the way, Retro Bowl does have one microtransaction. You can buy an upgrade. Actually, you can buy, there are some microtransactions that actually let you succeed faster, like you get more points or more coach points or whatever, and you can do better and build a better team faster. Fill up, you can make a bigger roster and more characters, more players in your team, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit microtransaction. No pay to win, some cosmetic DLC, but core gameplay is untouched. That's kind of what I'm probably leaning towards, and I'm probably going to have some cosmetic stuff, but I don't know. The problem with cosmetic stuff is you got to have a graphically, you got to be graphically skilled at creating cosmetic stuff, right? So I mean, if I'm the only artist and I'm not an artist, I'm probably not going to produce a ton of stuff that people want just because it's cool. So, what can I say, man? That's just, I want to be able to add features and cool stuff, but I mean, it's going to take me a long time to learn that stuff and add features that make things cosmetically worth paying for. And so for me, it's mostly going to be adding new features, adding new teams, allowing for people to buy new teams, that kind of system. And the collection aspect is just you being able to collect your favorite cards, kind of like people collect football cards. You don't generally try to get all 1,400 players. You try to collect all your favorite players, all the best players. I mean, there are people who probably have a complete set of a year, but it's only because they bought the entire deck. Maybe I'll do something like that, allow people to buy players. I mean, yeah, I'd like the players to have some meaning. In other words, like the stats they earn or build up, that maybe they can play. I'm going to try to have collection leagues where only cards you can use, only your team is made up of cards in your collection, not players you draft. But you'll be against everybody else's collection of cards. I would even like to figure out a way to start offering like tournaments and stuff like that, player tournaments of some kind, where they can, do in a league, and then I don't know, I can give away awards of some kind, and that would be what they'd pay for. Like I'd give them a T-shirt or a small trophy or whatever if they win their league. I would probably have to do something like, order the trophy and ship them or whatever. I'd have to set up some scenario. I mean, obviously, if I end up with 10,000 people in leagues that are doing this, that could be kind of a thing. So I would need to figure out the logistics of doing such a thing. So I'd have to come up with some way to do that. And this is probably why ESPN stopped giving away their fantasy football championship T-shirts. They probably found that to be a pain in the Tishinsky, trying to send people all these T-shirts. I got 2 of them. I have 2 fantasy football championships. I won 2 years in a row, and they sent them to me. And then like the year after or something like that, they stopped doing that. So but I got 2 fantasy football league championship T-shirts from back in the 90s when they were doing that stuff. 90s, long time ago. All right, I know enough chit chat, huh? You're like, all right, you're just talking, not doing anything useful, talking about my game, but not getting anything done. All right. Sets their skill caps. Process players for skill ratings. It runs a loop to ensure that scaling values change. All right. So this is basically going to do this, but I need to call it. Does it return an error? Okay. So when done, setting skills, run the ratings. Oh wow, check that out. Oh, that's not what I was supposed to do. Never mind. We'll go. All right, so I'm trying to, gotta go find. Wait, am I only doing this once per player? Oh, that's create system player. I don't want to create system player. No, that's not the best place for that. I thought I was doing all the players. Create system player. All right, let's go see where that's being called from. Oh, really? So create system player is, oh, there's a players and a player. Oh, that's what the problem is. There we go, that's the one I want. All right, so we're gonna go in here, handle rebuild mode, delete existing data if required, set control modifiers, skill calculations. 8, calculate and set player skill ratings. Oh. AI already put this in for me. Huh. Calculate and set player skill ratings. Well, okay then. I guess that's done. Guess I don't have to do that. What I'm probably going to end up having to do is have, there's going to be skills, skill ratings, and then player, I don't know, skill. I don't know. I don't know, like skill execution ratings or performance rating or something like that. Because it's going to be different from the skill itself. The skill has a singular little whatever, but I guess I don't need to do it. I don't know. I was going off the charts. Game AI already had that in there for me. Oh, that's nice. There's a couple of things that I don't have. Oh. I think I am going to go ahead, and this number needs to be the scale get min Nope. Must be over here. Is it you? It's in the in here. Scale to max. Scale value to range. Oh, here we go. Scale to max. Scale to min. There it is. Scale value to max. No. Where did it put it? Get. Oh, it's in the scaling. I thought. Oh, I had set scale, not scaling. Oh, okay. All right, so I gotta go scaling values. That's what I want. Get scaling min value. That's one. Okay. Now we'll go over here to my offensive skills. I guess I can do general skills first. And we'll say get scale min value. Well, it's availability rate. You know, I think I may have to update this function. The problem with this is I'll tell you just a minute. Zero that. Use min value in system. Availability, right? So the idea here is I'm trying to set it up so I get back a minimum value that exists in the system without setting the minimum value. So get scale min value actually will set it. So what I'm going to do is I want to make 0, 0 kind of like an exception to the rule. Basically meaning if I'm passing in a 0, like no value at all, then this just returns the min, or returns whatever it is, min or max. If I say 0, give me the max. If it's the max value. If it's 0, then I say the min. That kind of thing. I just wanted to ignore if I use 0, 0. That will allow me to be a little. All right, so man, I really got to learn my Go. I mean, I can kind of figure this out. I mean, I understand what it's doing. Update min value only if the new value is smaller. See, zero is definitely going to be smaller. And bump last updated when it changes. You know what? I could just say if it's 0, don't do that. Read back the current min value. And let's see what min value is. See contacts without time. Ensure document exists if inserting. Read back the current min value. Scaling. Find one. Value name. Decode. Scale min value. Failed to read back value name. Return value. See, that's update, but I don't want it to update. Ensure a document exists if inserting. Set both min and max to the value. Update min value only if. So it must be, is there a condition here? Value name blah. Exists greater than. Oh, okay. But, okay, so this is where it's doing a search. Mongo, I think part of what's throwing me off is Mongo syntax is goofy. So value, new instead of return the initial value. Because I'm thinking I may have the initial value here. I just need to not do this if it's. So if it's greater than this value. So if it's greater than this value. Read back the current min value. I don't know. I think one of these, how is it determining? I guess this is the logic that I'm not seeing here. So find one. How would I know? What is that doing? I don't see the logic that says find one is the minimum. Because it's not looking, it's just looking for the value. I don't even know what it's getting, the value name. I already tested this function, I know it works. So can you update the min I'll learn something here and I see what it does. Scale min value and get scale max value to accept or accept to only update the current min max for qualifying non values. 0.0 is a flag to just return the existing min max value for the given function. This way, when I want to do a default for like say all the players get a skill, if they don't meet qualifications or there's no stat for them or whatever the existing situation is, they will actually get a value back that's just going to be the minimum of the currently existing available stats. I think that's just going to make it a lot more clean. Let's see what it did here. If value is 0, 0, treat as a flag to return the existing max value without updating. Right. And oh, so it's doing it up here. Value is 0. Treat as a flag to return the existing minimum. Oh, it just, oh, I see. It's just, it's usurping. See, what I was going to do is let it go through all the process. That goes to show what, it's short-circuiting it. It just says, if it's 0, get the min, done. No, everything else stays the same, which is probably the cleanest way to do this. My idea was let it go through, get it, do its thing, update whatever it does, if blah, blah, blah. The only problem is that might not work if the value doesn't exist. No document or read error, return 0 as no persistent min exists yet. That's probably fine. I think 0 is fine. I want it to return 0 if there is none, but something will have to generate it, and at some point that'll get triggered, which will run the update again, and it'll come back, and next time it'll have something. I have it set up to do a loop when those values change. And I also have it set up to do everybody before it attempts to do again. So it's like, if I have 1,400 players, it's not going to go, oh, we changed, run the ones we did already. No, it's going to go run through all of them. It'll probably get changed a bunch of times until it gets a full range. And then at the end, after it comes out of all of those, it's going to go, did any of these values get updated? It's going to go, oh, yes, they've been changed. And it'll run them all again. But this time there will be a valid range in there, and none of them will change it, and they all just get set according to the new range, and it'll be correct. And this value, when it comes in, will have a value that's in that range, and it'll take the minimum, which will be the current minimum for any given player. So you can't go below the minimum, though. So if I ever change the minimum, which I can do, I think that's good. I'm good with that. I think it's pretty simple. I think that's going to be perfect. That's a simple change. Good. And that's something I need to understand how Go, I need to lock into my head the way Go works. Go is inline air handling, and it's very linear. There's a lot of short circuiting. There was a time when short circuiting was a no-no. You had to be clean. You always exited in the same place. This is just the correct way to do code. It was for a long time. In fact, if you're like in C#, that's still kind of thing. If you're using try-catch statements, you run everything and you exit through the try, the catch, the finally, and then you exit, and you always exit at the bottom. It's nice and concise. You know where things are going. You don't short circuit. Go short circuits all the time. It's like a standard thing. If something goes wrong, you log the error, you return. You want to have a condition that says come back if this, if it hits, if the if is there, you return. You're short circuiting code a lot. It's a very, I don't know. It's good in some ways, but also bad in some ways because it can kind of throw you off if you miss the fact when you're trying to solve something that returns are happening at various locations. It's like, for example, if you want to have consistent logging like into the database, and I'm going to have to start putting that in pretty soon. All of my skills, execution tests, all that stuff's going to have to start getting logs. That keeps track for purposes of balance testing. Also, any errors are going to have to be logged, and I got to start figuring out how to log a call stack. So when I have a stream of things that are going and something goes wrong, I can go, what happened? And the idea is that what I want to do is create a call log. So when something comes in and a call is made, until we exit again, we're logging everything. And if any error occurs during that time that we're inside of the system, it'll keep it. But if we exit, it'll clear out that call log or that stack as long as we exited without any errors. So that's kind of what my plan of attack is. So when you make a call for something, it doesn't exit again until, so basically we're logging everything. So somebody says, hey, I did this thing and it blew up on me. Well, I'll have a call log that happens all throughout that point, and I can go, okay, well, what happened? What things were hit between A and Z, and when did that error happen? And that's my goal, is to be able to log all the errors at every loop, every call into the gateway. Now there's times, but that should basically mean everything is getting logged until we exit the gateway. And then it's just like, was there any errors? If so, we'll keep it. And if not, we dump it. And it kind of will keep me only having errors in the system for the gateway call. It's going to be kind of a long strategy, but I want it to be starting to pass. It'll have, like, all my functions are going to have to be updated to pass the call stack number or a call ID. And then that call ID is just going to be following around the code everywhere it goes. And if an error happens, we log it with the call ID. We say this happened and this happened and that happened. And we can kind of find out how we got to that point and where things went bad. If we have an error, we'll log what we had. And at some point, I may have to do something like, not all, I mean, because every single function is going to have to log, kind of, to some extent, what values were executed during that time. So like all of these print statements, they're kind of a mess, right? They're just going into my terminal. And that stuff isn't going anywhere. It has no, I don't know where that stuff's going to be when I actually need it to be. Plus it's going to be really cluttered if I'm looking at all those. I don't want just a bunch of print statements. I only want print statements when, like I want to dump the entire print log, only when there's an error, that kind of thing. Dump it out so I can see it, and then I'll know everything that happened, if it, in the tables or whatever like that. So like maybe it's collecting the information, and then at the end we go, okay, we had an error in this mess, log it, or don't, whatever. I got to figure out a way to do that. So what I'll probably have to do is, I don't know. We'll see what the best strategy is, but I got to do stuff like that. That's probably not going to be until after I get my initial demo out. And then I'll probably have to start building that for more robust tracking. What time is it? 10:20. Okay. So we do have my scaling in place. I did start working on my defensive skill escape block. You can see I have some stuff built here. Now escaping the block, I have certain values. Okay, so sacks and tackles on here are all the plays that a defender's involved in. Now divide that by the number of total team defensive plays. What I think I want to get is the what I'm going to probably have to do is something like player team plays player team plays during player availability. Okay, so games played divided by games. Oh wow, nice job, dude. That's good job. That's pretty much exactly what I wanted. It took the games played divided by how many games are in the season times the defensive plays, which gives me a percentage of the plays. And then I don't know what this thing is here. What is it complaining about? It's not. Oh, I have to get games in season. Team. Games in season. All right. There we go. It knows what that is because I've done it before. I think that's the right call. So if the player played all 16 games, they're going to get all the plays. But this is the idea, is just to kind of make it be balanced against what they were actually available to do. Stuffs, for example, are actually plays where they tackle the player behind the line of scrimmage, which is very good. But it's also included in tackles. But basically, I'm making those get a double dose of count, as a cinch. They're getting counted twice. The purpose of that is so that they add a little bit more weight. The stuffs are worth more than a regular tackle. In fact, I'm actually going to have a further weighted, that's evaded blocks, but then I want to have like sack yards and sack yards lost, which will also give an extra weighting to the end result. I have to decide what that weighting is going to be. And that means that's another control modifier I have to put in to decide, how important is that. See, I don't want to have any numbers. As you see here, if all these values are like zeros, I got to return a default again. And that's again where I'll have to be doing a check that says, hey, this player doesn't have anything, like there's no games in season, or they have no stuff yards, sack yards, or tackles, then it doesn't matter how. And maybe even if they don't have any, well, yeah, they haven't done nothing. They may have been in on defensive plays. Been available for them, but that doesn't matter. And this is actually in progress. All right, so we got evaded blocks. I feel like sacks and stuff should be weighted heavier. And tackles, they could have 100 tackles, but I feel like I should weight sacks and stuffs as being bigger deals. And it's more likely to be play. If you got to a sack or stuff, you are more likely blocked. Linebackers who make tackles maybe never even got attempted to be blocked because they could be chasing a guy down. There's nobody trying to. Well, I mean, I guess they could have, but it's not as likely. Same with cornerbacks. They might make tackles, but there's not always somebody trying to block them. A lot of times those plays don't, aren't being blocked. It's not. It's unless it's a running back or something, but you don't always know who you're up against when you're blocking, or because like I have on my stats, I have individual defense. It's all I have. I don't have which ones are run plays. I don't have any idea what run plays happened. But I do have stuff yards and stuff. So these are all the things I can get. And the question is, like, if this guy's got 114 tackles, we don't know how many he was blocked. He's got 152 tackles. All we know is that's 156 with sacks. But sacks are a big deal, and you were most definitely, somebody was trying to block you or was going to block you or should have blocked you and you evaded it. I mean, that's a guarantee. And the stuff is kind of the same way. Somebody was supposed to block you. They screwed up. I would like to have these values carry a little bit more weight. Like almost in proportion to the tackles. Tackles themselves are great, but they're only a 1 count. Where sacks and stuffs might be like, I might have a weight modifier for them. And then an additional weight modifier for how many yards per stuff and how many yards, or maybe that's the modifier. It's like, because if we got 7 goes into, let's say 7 goes into 45, what is that, almost 7, 6.3, 6.5, something like that. That's 6.5 yards. Maybe I do stuff, they get to be multiplied by the number of yards. That would be pretty good. Would that work? Could that be too much? So if their average yards per stuff was 6.5 or 6 or 7.3, no, 6.5, because I'm looking at sacks and yards separately. 6, the stuff, the average there is about 3. Some of these might be a little high. That's actually really high, 6 going into 20. 7 into 17 is about 2, 3. That's maybe not even quite 3. It looks like 6.5. Yeah, so we're looking at about 3 being the highest. That might be a good multiplier for those. And so they get multiplied by their stuff percentage. That would give it a good weighting. I like that. And then sacks, probably the same thing. The higher it is, the better you get. So 14.5 goes to 97. That's about 7. But again, it's like 7 times 14. Ooh, that would be a lot. But you know what? I'm not that concerned about the lot. Truthfully, though, I give it too much. Linebackers that get no sacks and no stuffs, does that make them bad? Just bad? No, it just makes, I mean, you can still be good at tackling. Tackling skill is a different skill. Just maybe you're not real good at getting away from blocks. You could have, like, I'm looking at some of these high tackles. Like, for example, this guy's got Stephen Cooper had 100 and it looks like 102 total tackles, but he had no sacks and only 2.5 stuffs. So he's obviously either a linebacker or a safety or something like that. Maybe not great at getting away from blocks, but he's making a lot of tackles out in the open field. But if I do it that way, I have it's like a built-in modifier for these guys. Look at that one. Boy, this Paul Poloski. 5.5 into 37 gives him about almost a 7. But it's 7 times 5 is 35. The biggest one would be like the 14.5 into 97, which is what, about 8? It's probably not quite 8, 7 something. But 7 times 14 is still, you know, it's going to be... Well, that's not really... I guess that's kind of silly, huh? Now that I think about it, my math in my head is starting to make it come out the same. Which that doesn't work. Because if I go 7 into 40, I basically am just saying put yards on there instead of the sacks. My brain's thinking that's a whole new number. It's not a whole new number. I'm just giving you this whole... Because if I multiply the sacks times their sack per yard, average sack, this gets the yards. I would just put yards in. That's not... That's not a thing. I don't know why I was... Ignore me. I don't know what I was thinking. I mean, I guess it could work, but I want the sacks and stuffs to be multipliers. And I wanted it to be weighted by the yards, but simply giving them 88 yards seems like giving them a lot. Because that really is a high multiplier. Alvis Doomerville, yeah, he was... Oh yeah, that was Broncos. He was good. And he had 17 sacks. Man, did he lead the league? I knew he was good. I didn't know he was that good. He had 17 sacks. I don't know if he led the league, but he certainly was one of the higher ones on this page. Oh yeah, check it out. He led the league that year. Good job, Alvis. Broncos. Huh. Anyway, so he would get 88.5, but I don't know if I want to do it that strong. Maybe and he's obviously good at getting away from blocks, right? He must have been a terror. People must have hated him. I mean, people have outdone that. It's not like a record or anything, but it's still... An 88 is pretty good. I don't know, what is that? 17, 88. It's not as good as the 97 for 14, though. Jared Allen. Sacks for nearly 100. I mean, he did have 88, but he had 3 more sacks, 2.5 more sacks. So do I combine it maybe and give them a multiplier that matches for both? Making both their... Because Jared Allen had 7 stuffs. Alvis Doomerville only had... Not even. He shared a stuff with somebody for a yard. 17.2, so that would definitely lower his number. How do I weight sacks and stuffs and consider yards and stuff yards? I could scale. The scaling scaling stuff yards, it's going to be a big scale. Well, not stuff yards so much, but sack yards, 97 down to 0. That's a big scale. and it's not a good maybe I just give them a double modifier, because I mean, getting a lot of tackles is good. Or I can give them a 5 modifier. That would be really crazy though. 5 times 14 is 70. 70. And 70 and 50 is 120. It does give a character like Jared Allen similar to those people down here with 100 and just doing tackles in the open field. And I don't think that's as much of an evade block. Honestly, I still think tackles are good. If you're good at it, you're getting away from some blocks, obviously. But I think it's reasonable to say at high numbers of sacks are escaping more blocks. And I think Alice Doomerville and Jared Allen, they don't have very many regular tackles, but they get a lot of the... If I give them a 5, gosh, I'm tempted to just go with sack yards and stuff yards. But then their actual sacks are meaningless. What's a good way to do that? Because their actual sacks are meaningless. I can do fixed amounts, but then their stuff yards are meaningless. Because a guy who sacks somebody and they only lose 1, it's only 1 yard. It means they weren't. I mean, they got some sacks in, but that's not much better than the guy who. I mean, like there's a guy here, Kirk Morrison, 2 sacks, they lost 3 yards. That's barely a thing. That's like what, 1.3 yards a sack? It's hardly even a modifier. If I gave him, I don't want to give him times 3, but if I was to say 1.3 times 2, it's 2 point. Oh wait, maybe they're not the same number. Because if I was to say yards is a modifier, 3 times 2 is 6. But if I say their average yards per sack, that's only a 1 point. A 1.3 modifier, which would only make that a, was it 1.3 would be a 2.6. He would only be getting a 2.6, not his full yards. It's not 6, so I guess it's not a full thing. So if their average yards per sack, 7, all right, let's see what this is. But that would be, how come that doesn't work out? 45, let's see, 45 divided by 7 times 7. That's 45. Which, yeah, that's obvious. How come 2 divided by... Oh, because I was going the other way. No, 3 divided by 2. Oh, I see what I'm doing. Okay. It's not a multiplier scenario. it's a using the yards instead of multiplier. If I try to use it as a multiplier, I end up with the same value. If I because 2 divided by, if I use yards as a multiplier, that'd be a 45 times 7, which would be insane. But using, so the idea is that I'm using the yards instead of the sacks or the stuffs, which gives them a lot of weight for some people who've got a lot of sacks. But I still feel like it's kind of like, what if 2 people did the same amount? Who's evading more blocks? The guy who sacked them 5 times for 20, or somebody who sacked him twice for 20. Yeah, the 2 sacks for 20 are better sacks. I mean, deeper. But that doesn't mean he might be a pretty good I don't know, sack attempts or whatever, but escaping block skill, that doesn't mean he got away from as many guys. He just got away 2 good times. When he did get away, he got good sacks. So that's not the same as actually having more. So you got to have the sacks and stuffs be their own calculator. They got to have their own weight for having actually done it that many times. So I need to have and giving it enough leverage to carry. And then the yards and stuff yards should also be their own. Maybe I can give them a 3 times on sacks and stuffs, and the yards would be just the average yards per sack as another value, as an extra boost. So that would be like adding another, like Sean Phillips there would get another 7. So it'd be like 14 and 3. So it'd be 9. You'd get like 23 more. It'd be the equivalent of having 23 more tackles. And then I could do something like that means giving more modifier. Okay, I think I got it. I'm going to do that way. I think I'm going to go with creating modifiers for sacks and stuff. So I'm going to give them the same weight. Stuffs aren't as frequent on their own. They can't happen. But then I'll have a multiplier. Well, I'll call it the sack and stuff multiplier. And then we'll add sacks and stuffs together and multiply them by that multiplier, which would be whatever I set it to. So it could be a 3 or 4 or 5, and I could adjust it if I don't think it's giving me a fair representation. And then I will also give yards as a division of another modifier that's going to be the equivalent of, maybe I'll add the stuff yards and sack yards together and divide it by the number of sacks and stuffs and give that as another modifier. Maybe I'll do that as its own times 2 or times 3 or something, because I really think those carry more weight than just general tackles. Besides, they're more potent. That means you're quicker, faster, you're better. You're just better at getting away, and you're usually getting away from linemen who are there specifically to block you. Unlike having maybe a corner try to block you, or a running back, or a running back, or a receiver trying to block you, because those guys, they don't know how to block anyway. Okay, That's it for tonight. I will get that fixed, and then next time we'll start working on my next thing.